Good morning, everybody. The paper is entitled Impact of Organizational Innovation on Non-Financial Organizational Performance, an exploratory study of higher education institutions in Oman. The primary researcher is Dr. Zaynab Nadim. The second researcher is Dr. Binu Mathew, both assistant professors at the College of Banking and Financial Studies, Oman. Before we proceed on to the paper, I'll brief you on the contents of the whole research. We start with the introduction, which includes research problem statement, research objectives, and the significance of study. The second chapter is literature review, which includes organizational innovation, organizational performance, the relationship between organizational innovation and performance. The third chapter, titled Research Methodology, includes research design, research population and sample, the data collection method and the techniques used in the data analysis, followed by validity and reliability of the data collected. The fourth chapter is entitled Data Analysis and Findings, where we'll be presenting the demographic profiles of respondents, followed by findings of correlation analysis, findings of multiple regression analysis, and the final chapter is a conclusion which includes the practical implication of the study, followed by limitations and future research recommendations. We go to the first chapter, that is the introduction. Innovation is one of the essential competitive priorities which can contribute in improving organizational performance. It has been suggested that organizational innovation is an important factor affecting organizational performance. As is known, higher education is one of the most important sectors in the economy of many countries, of which Sultanate of Oman is one among them. However, there is very limited evidence of studies we found in the Middle East region, particularly in the Sultanate of Oman, prompting us to be conducting this research on its need. Talking about the research problem, two theoretical gaps were identified by this study. The first gap was the focus which was given by the previous authors to study the relationship between organizational innovation and organizational financial performance. The references are given on the slides. The second research gap was recognized due to the lack of evidence that the impact of organizational innovation on the non-financial organizational performance, which is studied in the higher education institutes in the Sultanate of Oman. In addition to two research theoretical gaps, a practical gap was identified between theoretical and practical understanding of organizational innovation. The Oman Academic Accreditation Authority has set up 7 values recommended to be followed by all higher education institutions in Oman. One of these values is the diversity of professional opinion and encourage innovation and creativity by the OAAA. The practical challenge for higher education institutions in Oman is to follow a rigorous academic quality system set up by the OAAA through organizational innovation to meet the international standards in higher education. Therefore, the current study will aim to fill these gaps. Research aim and objectives. The aim of this study is to test the impact of organizational innovation on on non-financial organizational performance in the HEIs in the Sultanate of Oman. The specific research objectives are these. 1. To test the relationship between technical innovation, administrative innovation, and innovative culture with non-financial organizational performance. 2. To analyze the relationship between the 3 organizational innovation practices with non-financial organizational performance. Now, the significance of the study. This study has significantly contributed to the body of knowledge by focusing on the direct impact of organizational innovation on non-financial organizational performance in the higher educational institutions in the Sultanate of Oman. Moreover, the study findings will help both faculty and the administrative staff members working in the HEIs to develop changes which may contribute in improving the overall organizational performance of higher educational institutions. Hence, in the backdrop of globalization of education, the Sultanate of Oman is still in need to develop and sustain high quality of organizational performance in the higher educational institutions in Oman to ensure achieving international education standards. The next section will be taken over by Dr. Zaynab, and I hand over the mic to Dr. Zaynab. Thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum. It's a great pleasure to contribute and to take role in your reputed conference. I'm very delighted. We are both, me and Dr. Binu, are very delighted to be in your conference today, even through this recorded video. So apologies for not attending in person. The second part of our paper is the literature review. And the literature review was divided into four main sections. The first one was focused on our first research variable, which is organizational innovation. And the second one is on organizational performance. After that, we have tested the impact between, we have referred to different studies, generally tested the impact of organizational innovation on organizational non-financial performance, and specifically in the higher education institution industry. So, and we have ended chapter 2 or section 2 with a conceptual framework for our study. So what do we mean by organizational innovation? Innovation is very crucial to produce new creative solutions for existing and to avoid any future challenges. And it's focused on 2 types of knowledge, the tacit knowledge and the explicit knowledge, and how we can use of these 2 types of knowledge in order to gain and sustain the competitive advantage. Organizational performance was discussed in terms it's considered as crucial to know how successful the organization is to achieve the organizational objectives. And it was categorized into 3 concepts. These 3 concepts consist of financial performance, product market performance, and shareholders' return. The third section is about the relationship between organizational innovation and organizational performance, and there were so many studies which were included in our study, with special attention to higher education industry. But I will refer to one of the studies as a sample to the studies which were included in our research paper. The study sample was conducted in 200 Tunisian companies operating in different sectors, and the data was conducted in a questionnaire, a self-administrated survey and email survey. And the findings showed that there is an impact between organizational innovation and organizational performance. This was only a sample of many papers which were included in our study. This is the conceptual framework, as you can see. The conceptual framework consists of our two main variables, the organizational innovation and its themes, technical innovation, administrative innovation, and innovative culture. And our second variable, the outcome variable, is the non-financial organizational performance. In Chapter 3, the focus was on research methodology, and we have followed the quantitative research design in a form of survey for better understanding the relationship or the impact between organizational innovation and on the non-financial organizational performance in the higher education institutions in Sultanate of Oman. And the time horizon was followed by single cross-sectional design to collect the needed data. The research sample, population and sample, we have collected our data from 3 academic institutions, three higher education institutions in Oman. One of them was a public sector institution and the other 2 were private sector institutions. The 3 institutions were offering academic and applied programs, professional programs, to make sure that we have covered the programs available in Oman, to give them a chance to be represented in our study. And to determine the sample size, the total number of population was 364 employees working in these 3 higher education institutions. And after that, we have depended on Krishik and Morgan, calculated a table, and accordingly the number of distributed questionnaire was 186. After that, when we have started to enter the data into SPSS, we have realized that 131 questionnaires were valid to be included in our study. The response rate, as it's shown here in this slide, it shows that 70%, which is an accepted level of participation. Now I will shift to data collection method, and the data collection method was based on a standard questionnaire, and the standard questionnaire was divided into 3 sections. The first one was focused on the demographic variables, the second one was related to organizational innovation assessment, and the instrument used in this study was adopted by Arbitrum 2002, and the same instrument was used by many different authors, as you can see here, and it was based on Likert 5 scales, starting from strongly disagree to and strongly agree. And the non-financial performance was also based on the Likert scale, and it was developed by these authors, and it was adopted by many other authors, and it was relevant to the higher education institutions. Data analysis techniques, we have used the descriptive analysis, Pearson correlation, multiple regression analysis, all were run by using SPSS 23 edition. Validity and reliability. The validity and reliability of our study was tested by CFA, and no items were removed from the scale. And to test the reliability, we have used the Cronbach alpha, and also no scales were removed, and all the scales confirmed the validity and reliability standards. Respondent demographic profiles was discussed in section 4, and in section 4 it was about the respondent demographic profile, and the respondent demographic profile was consist of age, academic qualification, years of experience, and gender-wise. And the finding of the demographic profile was, as you can see, so all our participants get a chance to be represented in our study. As I said in the previous section, that we have used the Pearson correlation to test the relationship to achieve our first research objective, and the findings showed that there is a positive correlation between the three forms of organizational innovation with the non-financial organizational performance, and that was proved statistically in this table. To achieve our second research objectives, we have conducted multiple regression analysis, and the model summary is seen in this slide. And the finding of this table showed that there is a significant relationship between organizational innovation and non-financial organizational performance. And to complete with our second research study, it was proved that to identify which organizational innovation got the highest impact on non-financial organizational performance, it was proved that the highest impact was for administrative innovation with the beta value 0.276, followed by innovative culture with beta value 0.189, and the lesser impact was for technical innovation with beta value 0.167. And all the three beta values were significant. To conclude with our first section, a conclusion was provided in our paper, and 5.1 was focused on the practical implications, and the practical implications for our study were many. Part of them are we need to focus on the non-financial organizational performance to ensure a long-term link between the organizational objectives and the non-financial organizational performance. The second implication was measuring periodically the non-financial organizational performance can support the decision makers in taking the appropriate decisions. And the third implication, continuous updates to non-financial organizational performance can continue in adapting to any type of organizational change. And finally, support organizational innovation for its